Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 10th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. And email me, of course, at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on all the socials under Choose Views and catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. And, of course, Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home. It's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other great shows and interviews. Also, in the evenings, The Politics Bar. Make sure to catch The Politics Bar, The Matt McNeil Show, and The Gailey Show, because that's where all the other good stuff is. We got good stuff here. We got good stuff with Joan and Patty, and we've got good stuff with our evening shows, and of course, plugging into all the what's happening here at WCPT. Lots going on, I think that right now one of the big things that's going on are the elections, which we'll talk about in a little bit, meaning some of the primaries and some of the races that are determining who's going to be in the next runoffs, as is the case in Los Angeles with the mayor's race. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But on today's show, we will have Mike Bennett, Mike Bennett is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Data, Science, and Artificial Intelligence at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And we'll be talking a little bit about how AI and data services and data centers are impacting communities. And, of course, it's Wednesday, so our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blues 63 will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. And then in the 7:30 hour, State Representative Chris Rabb, who is also a candidate for Congress in Pennsylvania's 3rd District, will be joining us in the 7:30 hour. And looking forward to chatting with him about his race. He is what's unique is that a lot came after him in terms of people that endorsed the other candidate, and he ended up winning this Democratic primary in Pennsylvania. So he'll be with us in the 7:30 hour. So looking forward to chatting with him. That's going to be a really good segment. So there you go with who's going to be with us this morning, who's going to be on the show. And if you make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, one of the great articles that's there, two that come to mind really quickly, that there's many, but two that really I wanted to highlight. One of them is, as Republicans push to legalize raw milk, an outbreak in Idaho offers a reality check on that very stupid decision. You'll appreciate the article. This is something that RFK has been a proponent of for a while, and we've seen an outbreak to the health of the folks in the state of Idaho, not Iowa. So make sure you check out that article. The other one that I highly recommend is "What Would Congress Look Like Without Gerrymandering?" Another great article. It's just the title alone. It's almost like, it would be a great question of the day, but I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder. But two really good articles over at heartlandsignal.com. Make sure you make your way over there. Check them out. Like and share, as we always say. One of the things that popped into my brain yesterday when I was talking with Cliff Schechter about the, I guess we could call it decorum. The word that I use is decorum, and it really is amazing to me how a country that, well, let me put it this way: the persons in the country that voted for Donald Trump that talk about having things be wonderful and look great and be representative. I'm a patriot. I'm an American, and all these things that a lot of times the the MAGA crowd likes to call themselves and try to represent themselves as being. It's a loss of decency that's happening. I had a friend send me an email, a personal email. It wasn't to my WCPT email that said, Rich, at the end of the day, what's happened, and this was on the heels of the conversation with Cliff. The person said to me, a friend said to me, you know, the decency that the United States likes to say it's represented is gone. And that's what a lot of people are not willing to say. They may be thinking it, but they're not willing to say it, or at least at this point, many are not. That decency, you know, treating each other with decency, or as Mayor Johnson says, with humanity. That's gone. There are, you know, and when I say that it's gone, I don't mean that in every nook and cranny of our society, everybody's treating everybody else with a lack of decency or lack of humanity. I'm talking about it from a federal government leadership standpoint. That's gone. There's no one in the federal government right now that's part of the administration, part of the cabinet, or part of the GOP. There might be one or two House of Representative members, maybe a senator here or there, but you know, it's a stretch. The only person that comes to mind in the Republican Party right now that I think about that's currently holding an office on a federal level that is trying to show some decency, that comes to mind. Now, again, that's not to say that there's no one, is Representative Thomas Massie, who is, you know, lost his primary because Trump put his thumb on the scale about the Epstein files. Outside of that, I can't think of someone. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. For those out there who are, you know, checking all the boxes of he said something wrong, that's acting with decency and humanity. And that's where my friend was saying, you know, we've just lost that sense of decency, and it's coming from the federal government. That's the part that's just horrifying, and you know, it pisses me off, just to be honest with you. It just does, because I grew up at a time when we were. And again, this is not how I grew up, but it's about just to share my experience. It's not like my time was better than somebody else's. I'm not trying to say that. But I grew up with respect being one of the words that was top of mind all the time. Respect. Respect for the people. First, it starts with yourself. You know, there's a great song. Who was it that, I don't want to give the credit to the wrong person, but the song Respect Yourself, okay? Starts there. But that's part of how I grew up, and this person that sent me this email reminded me of that in terms of decency. It's like, this is how we grew up, dude, and we've lost that. It's gone. It's humiliating in some ways, because so many of us want to be in relationships and encounters that are respectful. That doesn't exist right now from our federal government. I grew up believing that was part of where we should be to each other. Respect starts, that's like almost first. If I don't respect the person, it's hard for me to love them or to like them. And right now, when I talked to, this was something that was sent to me on the heels of my conversation with Cliff Schechter yesterday about, you know, this UFC match on the lawn of the White House and all the other things. I mean, tearing down parts of the White House to build this ballroom. That's disrespecting an important and unique part of our history. Donald Trump slapping his name on buildings and banners and whatnot in Washington is about disrespect to the history of our country, the really good stuff, the things that we've all strived for, that our predecessors fought for in various wars, et cetera. And civil rights movements, the civil rights movement and the people that are part of it. There's no respect coming from this White House, this administration, and the GOP at large. And that's also one of the reasons why I think a lot of people just were rightfully upset about this thing with the Knicks basketball game appearance. That was disrespectful to the true fans. That was disrespectful to the people, the businesses. What about all the businesses that had lost money because of them closing off so many streets? That's disrespectful. That's without any concern or care. And there's no question in my mind. We've lost that. We kind of lost it, or we've lost it because too many people's lives are being directly impacted by the lack of respect and the lack of humanity and the lack of dignity. And that should say something to all of us. So we've got to work hard and fight to get it back. We do. That's our only option, is to work hard to fight to get it back. So I'm going to ask you a question that has absolutely nothing to do with that. Well, it does, but it doesn't. But it does. Because this is just one of those things that crossed my mind in this email conversation that I had with my friend. Who has been your favorite president of all time and why? Let us know with a phone call. Henry's going to open up the lines in a second. Well, maybe not. I don't know. We won't be able to call us, so you're going to have to text me today at 773-763-9278 and send your comments to our Facebook page. Who has been your favorite president of all time and why? Got to pick one. Can't pick two. Got to pick one. Favorite president of all time. Not your GOAT, but your favorite. It's a difference. Let us know. 773-763-9278 is the number that you can text us this morning, and go to our Facebook page to let us know there. We're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is our number. Of course, you're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago and 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. Our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we will be right back.
Mic's on, truth's out. This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Yeah, the song Respect Yourself, the Staple Singers. Thank you guys for helping me when you have a brain moment. But it starts there. It's always started there with me, at least as I grew up and got older. And I think that's where we are right now with our country. It's the lack of respect that is coming from us, which is in turn the return of that is not there. In other words, we're not getting the respect, or we haven't earned it. Right? So you don't just get it. We haven't earned it. And so my friend reminded me of that in terms of our dignity and just the class that we used to represent. It's not there. But let's hit them with a couple of quick Choose Views news, guys. On this June 10th, 2026, ranchers are worried about screwworms' toll on their industry as the U.S. Department of Agriculture confirms 2 more cases of the New World screwworm. Ranchers in Texas say they're worried about how the outbreak can be contained, how much damage it will do to the livelihoods for the people that are in the ranching business. The U.S. cattle industry took around 30 years to recover from the last major infestation. This time, the impact could hit sooner and harder. One rancher tells Reuters that his county will be done if the screwworm isn't controlled in 2 years. Another adds, it's our livelihoods that are on the line here. And as we all know, the department that would be able to help prevent this was gutted by none other than this current administration and their little minions. So don't blame it on the Dems. No, sorry, I hate to be political about it, but that's the truth. Don't blame this on the Dems. We told you. Small businesses at lowest optimism levels since 2024. May's measure of U.S. small business optimism dropped to its lowest level since October of 2024, an ironic time right before the 2024 election. Battered by rising prices and persistent inflation, the National Federation of Independent Businesses Optimism Index dropped 0.06 points to 95.3, erasing virtually all of its gains since the last presidential election. Take note of that. In Apple's WWDC talk, some see hints at a new iPhone that's a folding iPhone. To all you Apple superfans and industry analysts are reading the tea leaves, I should say, and spotting hints in the tech giant's latest release of a foldable iPhone. Inside the first developer beta of iOS 27, which was unveiled Monday at Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, one researcher found code linked to whether a device is folded or unfolded. So there you go, those code breakers. The World Cup resale market is flooded with nearly 180,000 tickets. It appears likely the World Cup will feature many empty seats when the tournament kicks off this week, based on the reporting from the Financial Times. It shows that nearly 180,000 available tickets are still available. Median prices have fallen 20% in the last month, meaning that most sales will come at a loss once transaction fees are subtracted. Record prices continue to depress interest, with 15,000 tickets listed on FIFA's official site as well. And last but not least, the USAA is about to return nearly $1 billion to Florida members amid reforms. The insurer is set to return this level of money to Florida members, including a $500 million dividend, thanks to a recent tort reform that has reduced the litigation costs, according to CNBC. The importance of this is that the changes have led to a significant drop in insurance lawsuits and legal expenses, allowing insurers to lower rates and issue dividends back to policyholders. Georgia and Louisiana recently passed similar reforms, and New York is also considering them. USAA says eligible members can expect to see average payments of about $760 starting June 15th. So that's a good thing to see that their premiums are going down, because we all know that prices there in Florida have skyrocketed. So there you go, guys. A couple of quick Choose Views news items on this June 10th, 2026. Join me, of course, weekdays here on WCPT 6 to 8 a.m. and also on TuneIn, heartlandsignal.com, and watch the video stream live on Facebook and YouTube if you want to see my bright, shiny face Monday through Friday mornings. Today's show is live on Facebook, and of course, we're reading your comments. So let us know who has been your favorite president of all time and why. And you can we'll leave your thoughts there. We'll do as much as we can to share them, to acknowledge them. And of course, we want you guys to like and share our page. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, I'll be in for Joan Esposito. Yeah, I'll be back. I'll just kind of drive around the neighborhood a couple times and come back. And my guests include comedy duo Frangela, Francis Collier and Angela V. Shelton, retired Army General Randy Manner, who has been with us before, Amy McGrath, political and national security analyst and candidate for U.S. Senate. She'll be with us. And then Naomi Davis will also be with us, talking about some of our environmental issues, and specifically as part of the Operation Push festival that's taking place here in Chicago this week. Starting today, in fact, tomorrow and Friday. I'll be actually there in part a little bit tomorrow afternoon, listening to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and of course, Democratic nominee for president in 2016. So I'll have a chance to listen in to what she has to say. But I'll be sitting in for Joan this afternoon from 2 to 5, be taking your calls, so make sure you get yourself ready with all your great questions. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest co-host Ken Mejia Beal, and their guests include Precious Brady Davis, Commissioner of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, and Morgan Coghill, former candidate for Illinois' 10th Congressional District. And let's see, along with activist Augusta Gouffroy. Sorry about that. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT Central Time, of course, and the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Tomorrow, here on Choose Views, I'll be talking with guest Emmanuel Chris Welch, who is the Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives, Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza, newly announced candidate for mayor, Brian Kennedy, mayor of Glendale, Wisconsin, the national president of Democratic Municipal Officials. So that will be part of our lineup tomorrow. And then on Friday, make sure to tune in Friday morning as the first in a series of America at 250 conversations we'll be having this month. This week's historian's Kevin Schultz, who's the author of Why Everyone Hates White Liberals, Including White Liberals, will be with us, along with another great author and historian, Michelle Duster, who is a great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells. They'll be joining me during the show, and we'll be talking about no kings in America. So looking forward to having you guys plug in, and hopefully maybe we'll be able to grab a few calls as well on Friday's show. But like I said, I'll be sitting in for Joan this afternoon. So like I said, I'll drive around the block a few times and come back through the neighborhood and, gather some late breaking news stories. And then I'll be right back here at 2 this afternoon. Who is your favorite president of all time and why? Who is it? As we're talking about elections, or talking about presidents, I should say, let's talk real quickly about elections. California's Los Angeles mayoral runoff is set for the two Democratic candidates. So that's a good thing. I think that this, what do they call him? Reality star would have been a travesty. Was it Glenn Pratt or whatever his name is? I don't remember it, Henry, because I don't want it to be too much in my brain. But yeah, good on them that they were able to make it through that craziness. And it looks like Becerra and Hilton are going to be in the runoff for governor. Those are going to be they are the top two vote getters, it seems, at this point. So California did do the work to get it right. And getting it right means making sure that the voters are able to select these folks rather than the guy sitting in the White House putting his thumb on the scale. Maine, it looks like Graham Plattner is going to be the Democratic nominee. We got to win that seat. I said this last week when I was critical of his latest information has come out on him, as well as things from before. But we got to win this seat. So hopefully the steam is going to stay behind him and he's going to continue to move forward. And we just have to work through the issues that he's brought to the table to get him across the finish line to beat Susan Collins. And down in South Carolina, real quick before we hit this break, Nancy Mace, who was running for governor, lost to the current lieutenant governor, which I think is a good thing because he's just, we'll keep that. We'll save those comments for a different day. But that's what's happening in some of the elections that took place in the last few days. So let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, along with our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we will be right back with Mike Bennett, Associate Vice Chancellor at the University of Illinois at Chicago. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views, where we read more than just the headline. Now here's your host, Richard Chu.
Hey guys, good morning to you again and welcome back to the show. Of course, if you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views and I'm Richard Chu. Looking forward to our next guest. Talk about something that we talk about a lot here on the show, and I've asked a number of people who have been on their thoughts in this space, but it's always great when you have, Henry, an expert, someone that I won't say does it for a living, but someone that is part of what they think about on a grand scale. With us this morning is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Strategy at the University of Illinois Chicago and a faculty member at the University of Illinois School of Law. I'm talking with Michael Bennett. Good morning, Mr. Bennett, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, thank you so much for that warm and sweet welcome, Richard. It's great to be with you.
Big hug and high five, as I say. My wife laughs when I use that. We got to give everybody a big hug and a high five. You know that I was talking. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I love that. I love that. Right back at you.
We're Chicago guys, so that's kind of how we roll. I saw this really great clip about Chicago over the weekend. The guy that moved here from Brooklyn, and he said I was a little concerned about how I would, make it here in Chicago and how I would be. I thought, I'll give it a period of time and I might be moving back to Brooklyn. He said that was 12 years ago. So
I understand that.
Our city is not even close to being perfect, as none of our big cities are. But we've got great people like you, Mike, who are doing such great work to help us better understand something we can't run away from right now. We got to lean into this. Tell us a little bit about your role at UIC and what you're undertaking right now. Why it's so critically important when we're dealing with this data and artificial intelligence conversation.
Right. Again, thank you so much for bringing me on this morning. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be with you. And hat tip to your wife as well. I think she's onto something with those hugs and high fives. Over at UIC, though, we take this very seriously, from our chancellor all the way down to our faculty and staff, and our students can't stop talking about this either. And really, when you think about it, UIC has a really crucial role in general when it comes to the city, when it comes to Chicago and really the whole state of Illinois. This is the only public R1, like the highest level of research university, the only public one in the city. We have a special civic responsibility to inform our citizens and give them an access to pathways to meaningful lives. And when it comes to artificial intelligence right now, generative artificial intelligence, there's no way to provide those types of pathways without helping everyone in our community at UIC and in the city more broadly come to grips with this technology. And so what does that mean? That means courses across most of our academic units right now. Courses for our students. We're building courses as well for the broader set of residents of the city. And then we're also trying to do what you and I are doing right here this morning, to project useful approaches to thinking about and making use of this technology that are consistent with our values here in Chicago.
So on the conversation around education, and thanks, Mike, for that. And I'm going to just say this right now, because I know we're not going to be able to cover everything that's on my mind and all of our listeners' minds here in Chicago and across the country. We have to have you back, because you are going to be one of those you are and will continue to be one of those voices that people need to hear. Because what I just felt from you when you described that was, we have to lean into helping people embrace this. We aren't running away from it. It's like you're not going to run away from the monster. The monster's there. So let's embrace. Let's deal with it. Let's be the Davids the David and Goliath. This is the Goliath right now. So let's tackle this thing down and embrace it. I got that feeling from you. So I want you to know that you got a permanent invitation to be on to talk more about this and how we can use your experience and your leadership to help people say, you know what, I'm not going to run to the hills from this thing. So from an educational standpoint, though, that's the critical part. A lot of people don't know what it is. They hear it and they're like, oh, I don't want to mess with any of that stuff. So help us understand how UIC and education systems more broadly can be part of the education tool to get folks kind of, okay, let me get off the sidelines and be a participant so I'm not left behind. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I think I know exactly what you mean. If you are right now listening to this broadcast and you are a young person, say middle school, high school, in college, one way to, and one of the most accessible ways to get into this is just, it's two-pronged, right? It's just to, one, jump into a course or run over to one of the experts' offices. We have hundreds of professors on the UIC campus who could give you either a formal introduction to this technology through a course. I mean, if you're a student, maybe you can audit a course. And our professors are lovely. They take their mission seriously. And so if you wanted to go over and just talk to them about what this technology is about, where it comes from, what our special connection is to it in the University of Illinois system, and there is a special connection, Richard, which we should talk about. Any of those things you can approach a professor about, or especially folks in our STEM sectors. If you are a layperson, a person who is not enrolled in formal higher ed right now, someone who is out in the workforce, and this is a mysterious topic to you, one of the most accessible routes that you can take is to use the technology to learn about the technology. You can go to whatever model, right, whether it's ChatGPT, the latest version, or Claude. Maybe you're using one of the open source versions. It really does not matter for what we're talking about right now. Any of these models can effectively be a tutor for you, a co-learner with you. You can ask it to start from the beginning. What does this even mean? What do we mean when we say artificial intelligence? What are you? You can talk to it like a person. These are pretty straightforward ways that you can use to get an introductory exposure rolling.
You know, it's interesting. I'm looking at the guys in the studio because I thought when you said a moment ago, use the technology to learn the technology. I think I said that right. That's a hashtag for all of us right now. I mean, you know, Mike, you if you haven't already done that or thought, that's a hashtag that's got to be out there. Use the technology to learn the technology. That's brilliant. And talk about that in the framework of what you said about UIC's responsibility and connection and offering that you mentioned a moment ago. Help us better understand where you were going with that.
I advise students right now, most of them at UIC, most of them undergraduates, and they have a range of understandings of the technology, exposures to the technology, and reactions to the technology. For all of them, though, I say the same thing. One, a version of what I've already mentioned. Look into these courses. If you're interested in math, all of the underpinnings of this technology are mathematical. It's all linear algebra. Jump into those courses, especially those courses that have an AI component to them, maybe a module or two. If you're over in the humanities, social sciences, there are professors there, too, that are very interested in using it. If you are a historian, if you're a history major, the history of the technology is fascinating. People think that artificial intelligence as such has been around forever, but really the term and the way that we use it now, it was created in the 1950s in a summer not unlike this one at Dartmouth at a workshop there. The history is really fascinating. You can take all of those approaches, any one of them, really. But you should also be, again, embracing this technology and using it to augment your education.
Yeah.
Right. If you are concerned with it, you can actually talk to it and to human experts as well. But talk to it about those concerns. It can sharpen your understanding, even your critical understandings of the technology.
Wow, that's fascinating because I think that so many people, and myself included, and so many others, there's that fear of the unknown. I mean, that's a human thing. That there's none of us don't have that, or are susceptible to the fear of the unknown. But you're saying let's break it down a little bit. And one of the things I want to we are talking about history over the next 4 weeks on Fridays as part of our conversation. And actually, one of your colleagues, Professor Kevin Schultz, who wrote the phenomenal book, Why Everybody Hates White Liberals, Including White Liberals.
Yes.
But he's going to be with us on Fridays, and he's awesome, and I love his way of breaking down some of this complicated stuff, even with history, but then connecting it. And you just did something that was a historical moment. You referenced back to when this all started and at Dartmouth and all that. Why... Maybe I'll say why. Why is history so important in understanding where we are today? Whether it be AI, whether it be law, whether it be any area, and those are two areas, AI and law, that you are significantly well versed in. But why do you feel that the history in our history in general, or history in general, is so important to where we are now and how we make things better going forward?
History is, with respect to technological development in particular, kind of fascinating and incredibly important for at least two reasons for me. One is that even a cursory glance, right, even a casual survey of the history of this particular technology, of artificial intelligence, the concept even, it'll become apparent very quickly, even to non-experts, that there are many possibilities. This technology could have gone in many different directions. There were many instances since the mid-1950s when the technology was passing through a hype cycle, not unlike the cycle that we're in right now, where we can't escape discussion of it. And then all of a sudden, it just went away. Government funding disappeared. Experts gave up on the technology several times, Richard. That's happened. And it's possible again. And so the punchline there, just going back again to the 1950s, is that there is nothing inevitable about this technological development. As omnipresent as it seems right now, as pervasive as it seems right now, and as entrenched as it seems right now, all of those qualities are probably unfixed, right? They're probably much less stable than they appear. We're only a few years into the generative AI phase, if you will. The first model, the first ChatGPT that became publicly available, that's less than 4 years ago. Wow. This technology is, in effect, still under construction. So that's one type of value of a cursory glance at history. If you go deeper, if you go back hundreds of years, say to the 16th century, when Francis Bacon was talking about what we now refer to as technological innovation and development, you'll see that the very same questions that we have right now, he wrestled with. And this is effectively just the techno-political version of what Nader had been trying to tell us all through the second half of the 20th century. These questions of power, these questions of how the benefits of the technology and the costs of it are distributed, questions about the impacts, the societal impacts of a new technology. These are questions that don't go away. They return with every major technological development, and that's something that political actors need to understand, and activists as well. Yeah,
we're going to take a quick break. What a phenomenal way of looking at this, Mike. Thanks for that historical quickie, if you will. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and now AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Michael Bennett, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Data Science, and Artificial Intelligence Strategy at University of Illinois in Chicago. We'll be right back.
Don't hit that snooze button. It's time for Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us. We are talking with Michael Bennett, who is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Strategy at UIC and a member of the UIC School of Law, faculty member. So, Michael, let me ask you this question from a legislative standpoint, policy standpoint, I guess maybe is another way of putting it. What are there's two bills that just kind of hit the table here in Illinois. Talk a little bit about that from a state level and why they're important to us better understanding AI and the utilization of it in the state, certainly, but more broadly throughout the country.
Certainly. So the two pieces of legislative acts, if you will, that recently taking up so much attention in Springfield and across the state and really across the country are SB 315. And this is a bill that's become law. It's actually passed. It governs the most advanced forms of generative AI models going forward, so-called frontier models. And then there is the Power Act, which did not find enough support in the legislature to pass, but it did still make a lot of waves. And that one is related to SB 315, but the Power Act focuses on the infrastructure that enables generative artificial intelligence.
So the data centers, would that include, when you say infrastructure, the development of data centers or the building of them?
That's right. AI infrastructure, especially the data centers that the largest AI companies, the so-called hyperscalers, need in order to train, to create their models.
So it's a I've talked to so many people about this, and I've asked the question in there, particularly if I'm talking to someone that's not here in Chicago or Illinois, about what's happening with data centers in their community. And that's included people from California to Louisiana to New York to Florida. So all over the country, it is a concern. In some areas, it's a bigger concern, or I guess you could say run of roughshodness than on others. And I think a lot of it has to do with the legislators on a state level that kind of hold the line. A good example, Louisiana, I've had the honor of talking with retired General Russell Honore, if you recall, from Katrina. And he's got an organization called it's Green Army that is all about protecting the wetlands of Louisiana from the data centers, because he's got evidence, obviously, from Katrina that the wetlands they lost their strength. That impacted the water movement into parts of New Orleans, which made Katrina worse. How do I layer that into this conversation around data centers? We've got some strong legislators here that are working really hard to keep too much from happening. But, you know, we've got the largest body of fresh water right here in our back door. How are we navigating? Are we doing what we should be doing? Or should there be a greater push from us as everyday citizens of our legislators? Where do you see us in that space?
It's a really vital and crucial conversation and debate. And again, to your listeners across the country and probably across the world, really, Richard, I would say this is probably one of the top 5 most important techno-political questions on the board right now, especially in the areas that have these singular relationships to natural resources like we do, sitting here in Chicago, right on the edge of one of the largest collections of fresh water on the planet. Right, it's a really vital resource, and it's beautiful as well. Right, striking, and so. You know, one of the things coming back to education, and I think is really fundamental around this debate is, again, informing oneself, arming oneself. Everyone is talking about data centers, but Richard, I really wonder if people know what data centers are, if they know the history of this technology, if they know how much of the technology that many of us are using on a daily basis. That technology that's not generative AI, how much of that relies upon these centers? It's a really nuanced and complicated type of technology, and there's a broad range of data centers too. We shouldn't be intimidated by this, given again the value of the natural resources that are at stake here. The first thing is to just better understand what we're talking about when we say data centers. Okay, and so. These are massive, in many instances, massive infrastructures that require a lot of power, and they produce a lot of heat too. And as a result of that, many of them do at least. As a result of that, they have to have mechanisms for cooling. The most advanced forms of data centers, though, don't draw upon water from natural reservoirs on a regular basis, like a daily basis or anything. They have a fixed amount of water that they continuously circulate internally. Mm-hmm. And so, the draw on the water, again, with the most advanced versions, is minimal after they're up. But they do produce a lot of heat. They do require a lot of power. And this has a straining effect on our power infrastructure across the country in many instances. And this is happening around the world, too, though.
Yeah. You know, I think that the second part of what you said, that those that and I've talked to other folks who are in this space, that the water utilization, if it's contained, or the water necessity, if it's contained and regenerative in and of itself, that it does, it's a lesser strain on that resource in the community that the actual structure is in place. But but the one thing that no one's getting away from is the cause of heat. And that's it's good to hear you remind us of that, or educate us further on that part. So we're talking about locations and places. As we wrap up today, Michael, please help us understand the importance of community partnerships when it comes to this, because at the end of the day, this affects communities, however big they are or small they are, relatively speaking. How do we foster a better community engagement and collaborations so that we can navigate this space a little bit better?
Right. This is an excellent question and a great one to close out on. Once that initial kind of threshold matter is addressed, i.e., getting the fundamentals together, understanding what a data center is, what a proposed data center that's possibly coming to one's community, what it'll be supporting, what it requires to actually run, engaging directly with elected officials immediately, especially the ones that we're politically aligned with, and making sure that they understand what the technology is, making sure that they're hearing from residents, from the folks that they represent, the folks that they go to church with, that they shop with, and so forth, send their kids to school with, that they understand the stake here and the concern. We need to make sure that we have elected officials that understand the tech, in other words. And we know almost always, we know what actors are responsible for building these structures and for managing them. And so learning about those corporations and speaking to them directly as well, making sure that they understand the desires, and the concerns of the community.
Without a doubt. Mike, thanks for being with us this morning. I knew we were going to run out of time, but that always happens. But look on your calendar. Keep us quickly in your mind about doing this again, because it's such an important topic. Real quickly, how can folks find you? How can folks follow you?
The name is common, Michael Bennett. There are hundreds of us out there, but if you do a search for Michael Bennett, Artificial Intelligence, and UIC, as in University of Illinois, Chicago, I'll be the first one to come up.
That was great. Thank you so much for being with us, Mike. I appreciate you hanging out this morning. We will do this again sooner than later. And, just thanks for all the work that you're doing. So take care. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
My pleasure, Richard, and it's great talking to you now. Have a good morning.
You too. Bye now. All right, guys, quick break, 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, and our folks down at WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM in Warren County, North Carolina. Hey, guess what? AM 950. We hang out with them too, because they're the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be back with our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. We'll be right back.
He's not here to yell. He's here to inform and maybe stir the pot. This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
You probably can't see me unless you're watching on Facebook Live or the stream on YouTube, but this is me stirring the pot, churning, and it made Kurt smile, so that's a good thing. It's Wednesday, and that means that we have such a great opportunity to hang out with my good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. Good morning, Kurt, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard, and thanks for having me. I appreciate all you do, and thanks for stirring the pot, bud.
I've
never been accused of that.
I did that for you. Oh, man.
That.
Well, listen, Mike Bennett was really, really eye-opening. And the thing that I took from what he taught, there's a lot that I took from what he said, but one of the things that I took from what he was saying is that we cannot be intimidated by this thing called AI and all the things that it can represent. And he said something I thought was kind of interesting. Use the technology to learn about technology. And I know maybe it didn't strike everybody else or anybody else the way that it struck me, but I thought, golly, that's such a common sense, simple thing. But it's very applicable. Use technology to learn technology. You've done a really great job of that. And let me tell you why I'm giving you your flowers here, because I remember when you first started your platform and the work that you're doing, and, you've been on the show and all that. And you said to me, Richard, one of the things that I'm really trying to do, and we had this conversation in private, but also you've talked about it on the show, is embracing how technology was going to help you do a better job in getting your message out and connecting with people and that sort of thing. So it's interesting that, if we give ourselves kind of the permission to, as Mike said, use technology to learn technology and improve your competency there, it kind of does help. It kind of does work. What are your thoughts there, Kurt?
Well, technology obviously is it's something that's needed, and it's progressive ways of being able to enhance your knowledge, connectivity, learning skills, all of those things. Technology is a great thing. New technology always gets criticized, and people, we would never have a cell phone. We would never have electric car. I mean, the list goes on and on. AI is one of these things that is under a lot of scrutiny right now. And I respect what he had to say, and I understand where he's coming from. But I come from a different place when it comes to these AI. Yes, there are facilities that recycle their water, but there are very few of them.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely expensive to
build them that way.
Yes. And so out of respect, we can talk about this later, but I won't say anything towards the negative, because here in Indiana, they're abusing it. We're giving tax breaks to these companies that are coming in and building and reinvesting in their data centers. We're giving tax breaks and tax abatements that are lasting for 50 years. So our kids and grandkids are going to be dealing with this. And I seriously doubt AI is going to be the same in 50 years that it is today. So,
and no technology is the same if it's from its origin to where it is today. You just look at cars.
Exactly.
We can look at cars as a good example. It's probably the easiest one that connects us all. Saw
a story on rumble seats the other day on cars when they first came out. Rumble seats.
The only car that can destroy a deuce and a quarter. For those of you that don't know what a deuce and a quarter is, that's a Buick Electra 225.
Electra 225.
In case you don't know, now you know. The only other car that can bend the frame of a deuce and a quarter is another deuce and a quarter or a Buick Riviera. How do I know that, Mike Mercado? Because when I was a month into my driver's license, 16 years of age, I got T-boned by a Buick Riviera, and it bent the frame of my father's deuce and a quarter. But guess what? Yeah. Guess I survived with no injuries. That's how badass those cars were. But technology,
boats.
But technology, right there, to your point about, it's not going to be the same AI in 5 years. And he kind of even said 4 years of really it being in our face and how much it's changed. It's changed, and it's also changed our conversation around that.
I can remember in the early 70s, my father, he was a lineman for an electric company here in Indiana, and he worked very hard. And there was an ice storm in Michigan that he went and worked up there for like 3 weeks straight, helping rebuild the grid. And he made a lot of extra bonus money or overtime money. So for my mother's birthday, my mom had always wanted a Cadillac. So for her birthday, he went and bought her a Cadillac Eldorado. It was used, but we were like, wow, this is great. We have a Cadillac Eldorado. And then the gas shortage hit, and one day he came home with a Chevy Chevette. He traded in that Cadillac for a Chevy Chevette.
And you could fit the Chevy Chevette. Those are all. Most of us are old enough or know somebody. You could fit the Chevy Chevette probably in the framework of an Eldorado.
Absolutely. In the trunk.
In the trunk, pretty much.
Mom was livid. Where's my car? Well, the gases.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
hilarious. So yeah, because that was a huge car. That was a massive car also.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I built off of that old, the GM Fisher body, line. So yeah, they were the same car with different appointments to them, as we could say.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man,
I didn't know we were going to talk about that.
No. Well, I mean, we talked about technology and change has been, significant in our auto industry, and it's impacted us all. And I think the broader conversation that Mike was, or comments that Mike was trying to say or have, is that we do have to find ways to embrace it, and that even means I say embrace how we have to handle it. See, embracing it doesn't just mean the embracing of taking it on, but embracing the reality that legislation needs to be in place, which he's at the forefront of here in Illinois, and embracing, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense kind of conversations, which I know that, are important to you. But that's the other part of embracing it, is saying, yeah, it's here, but we got to make sure that they run it and use it the right way. So, I mean, that's...
let's do it the right way.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And
find out what
don't you think
the right
too,
way to
Kurt,
do about it.
Don't you think too that including as many voices as possible in the conversation is a must? Because one of the things that I'm reading and I'm hearing, and I know you probably are too in your way, is how many people are concerned about being left out. And the left out part is where a lot of folks are then putting up their own defenses, which is human nature of like, well, wait a minute. I think that this is that moment, or can be one of those moments, where the more people are involved in the conversations about how we use this, how we embrace it, how we legislate it, the better off we're going to be this time around when it comes to a new technology. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in conversation, and you and I have also talked about this. And this is one of the things that you are a champion on. You do a great job at this, because this is part of your livelihood, is to have conversation. And I think it's important that we do that, that we communicate with each other, and we have conversations with people that we're not familiar with. I mean, that's something I'm trying to do right now, is to meet people and reach out to people and have those conversations. And it's funny, when you do that, you find out that a lot of us have a lot of the same core interest and values and ideas that we want to see happen. We just may have different things behind us that's pushing us in that direction. But we all seem to get at the same crossroads.
We want to get to that same finish line, and obviously, the more people that are in the conversation, I think it's obviously the more good ideas come out, and I think that the more people feel that they're really part of this bigger kind of, American conversation. Kurt, we're going to take a tiny break, my man. The number is 773-763-9278. Hit us with a text. If you got a question for Kurt, send it to me. We'll try to get it through. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, which is the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, talking with Kurt Mullett of Hoosier Blue 63, and we'll be right back.
We may be waking up, but we're still engaged. It's Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. We're talking with our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. So much to talk about. I'm going to throw you a couple of the thoughts that are out there from folks right now, and we'll wrap up with the fun one that I'm going to hold on to until we get to the last couple minutes of the show, so you and I can go out on a laugh. But so now, even though I can't vote in Indiana, and you can, and you've been working really hard to bring awareness to people about true leaders who are going to be there for everybody, the Secretary of State, one of the questions that came my way as the Secretary of State race is, leaning in the direction of Bo Bai, who is, we don't have to go down the path of all the things that we've talked about before, and you've done such a great job of highlighting on your Substack. But how do I want to put this? Two-part question. His chances of winning, one, and two, what do you think it will take for Indiana voters to recognize at the end of the day, we got to win the seat. We got to win that office. How do you think that's going to play out now? Yeah, I know.
That's a tough question.
And it's hard to set aside this is one of those moments where you have to set aside, we all have to do this. We have to set aside how we view certain parts of it to go, ultimately, we got to win the seat or else we're still in a worse situation. It's kind of what Maine is dealing with in some aspects. But go ahead. Sorry about that.
Well, no, we had our Democratic convention this past weekend, and he was elected by our delegates to be the Democratic nominee. So that's who we are putting forth as the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State. I can't vote for an Epstein class candidate. I can't. I'm not a vote blue no matter who guy. And I understand the pushback and the criticism that I'll receive from that. At this point in time, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do because I have to see who else is going to enter the race and evaluate what is happening there. It looks like the Republicans are trying to push Diego Morales to the side, which is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned way too much. I've been working with a couple people, a couple friends of mine, Sierra Martin and Tabitha Ziegler, and now Aaron Moonwalker. We've been digging into this, and I have just found out way too much about, what's behind this guy. So I can't, I just cannot do this. I cannot vote for an Epstein class candidate. So I'm sorry if I upset people, but that's where I stand right now. But who I'm going to vote for, I don't know right now.
Yeah, that's an honest answer, and that's all I was looking for. It's because it's a situation where the principle that one stands on is the question becomes, do you stand on it to an eternity, or do you move off of it depending on the circumstances? And the honest answer is always the best.
Well, it comes back to something you were talking about earlier with respect, and I was brought up the same way you were brought up. Okay, and I'm sorry, but if I have no respect for you, it destroys everything else. I have to be in a place of respect with someone, and it's not. Respect is not something that just comes to you. It's something that people have to earn. I was brought up that way.
So let's try this out, because this is what's going to probably happen. I tend to have this long range view that is facilitated by short range planning and thinking. He gets nominated. Well, not nominated. He wins the election. Let's just play that out. And the reason I say this, and people may go, well, why are you talking about this as Indiana? You're in Illinois. Because we're neighboring states. And one of the things that happens is neighboring states politics impact the neighboring states politics. And if you don't believe me, then think about what's going on, people with the Bears in Indiana. So we'll put that on pause for a moment. Right. So he were to win and become Secretary of State, and then, moves in a direction that's less problematic for your thinking and belief. How will that impact you to then be able to say, let's help him change and let's find out what the opportunities are to get him into a place where he's going to be more of a candidate that we can get behind? Because, that could happen. Let's be honest. Let's just be realistic. Maybe not honest, but
sure,
that could very well happen. He wins. And so now you've got a person that says he's going to stand for the things that the majority of people that elected him voted for.
Well, I will use Thomas Massie as an example. Thomas Massie is not someone that I support as far as what he has voted for and what he has done in his past. I don't have respect for him in that manner, but he has shown that he is a fighter, and there are certain principles that he just will not support.
Yeah.
And so this has changed my point of view with him. I feel, you said you said earlier about him being one of the candidates that is that is doing the right thing, or I can't remember how you phrased it, but I think Ro Khanna is the same way.
Yeah.
I think those are two guys that are really doing a great job as far as standing up for us. So, the communication thing is the problem here in Indiana, because our state established Democratic Party didn't listen to their constituents and the people, what they were saying and the warnings that we were putting out. This all came down to money, about money.
Yeah.
And, progressives, that's not where we really stand. If you're a true progressives, you really want to get money out of politics. This is something that is a core belief in what, and I don't mean that we have to remove all money from politics.
Yeah,
money has to be there because, it's an essential part of it. I'm talking about the type of money and where it comes from.
Dark money.
Yeah, when we look at the influence that some of these PACs have, it's astonishing. And what's happening right now on the national level and on state levels too.
Well, the states are a reflection. I mean, I think the states are a reflection. State elections, I should say, legislative elections are a reflection of the national, and the national are a reflection of the states. I mean, we can't get away from that now, and I've been saying that for a while, and that's really got to be the conversation. One of our partners, team members, Daniel Squadron, is leading what's known as the States Project, and just put out a great new book, which I'm going to talk about today on Jones' show. I got to ask you this last question before we wrap up today, and it's so you and I can poke some fun a little bit. You and I love basketball. We don't watch it as much as we did when we were growing up and playing. But look, man, I can't remember ever in my lifetime going to any sporting event, period, where in the middle of the sporting event, I took a nap. I fell asleep. I knew I would tickle you with that one, man. I mean, after all the hell he put New York City through to go to the game and all the disruption and the cost to businesses and the cost to folk, he falls his goofy ass asleep. I mean, that's just... The other things I want to say, I'm not going to say, but I knew that.
Don Snorleone.
Don Snorleone, man. In of all places, New York. Don Snorleone in New York.
Sleepy Joe has nothing on Don Snorleone, man. Let me tell you.
Here's what I'm waiting for, Kurt. And I know you are too. Two things. One is disgusting and the other one's not. I'm waiting for the moment when he dozes off and there's drool. One, that's the disgusting one. And Henry's nodding his head right now. And the other is I'm waiting for him to nod off and have that, that jerky head thing that's caught on camera. That's the one I'm waiting for. Because I know you're a bad man. You're going to post that all over social media, brother. I know you are.
It's just the hypocrisy in this thing is just ridiculous. I mean, this guy,
is.
His performance on Meet the Press was just.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about that. My goodness, that was just.
That was just ridiculous. What a baby, man, baby. I mean,
you can't even.
Unreal.
Yeah, just baby. So, Kurt Mullet, y'all. Go Spurs, man. Go Spurs. Hey, they made I'm telling you, they better watch out.
I'm all for it.
Cool.
I'm all for it. It couldn't have played out better. That could not have played out.
There's so many associations, 47 and just whatever. So too much to talk about.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, man. Go have another good cup of coffee and have a great rest of the day. you. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it. You too.
All right.
Talk to you later, brother. Thanks.
Let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and the great folks at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views, and I'm Richard Chu. Thanks to our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, and it was great talking with him about technology and cars and Buick Electra 225s, also known as a deuce and a quarter, and all the rest. Always great to talk to Kurt. And they've got some challenges in Indiana right now when it comes to their elections and where they are, how they're dealing with what many voters want in the progressive wing of the party in the state. It's leaning more moderate with some of the folks they've elected. We've got a gentleman with us this morning who has had some similar challenges in Pennsylvania as a Pennsylvania state rep, and is now the 2026 candidate for Congress from the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania's 3rd District. And he and I have a little something in common. Chris Rabb, good morning, Representative. Welcome to Choose Views here on WCPT in Chicago.
Good morning.
Chicago born.
Yes. Born and bred.
Yep. We're built differently here. We can go anywhere on the planet and survive, and you've clearly done that by being there in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, and it's just great to have you with us this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So here's the question that is on everybody's mind in Pennsylvania in terms of us grabbing another House seat. You're going from the Pennsylvania State House now as a candidate for a larger district. I mean, I look at this geographically, but tell us a little bit about, before we get into some of the specifics of the politics there and your race, tell us a little bit about your background. I mentioned you're born in Chicago, but tell us your sort of, movement and all the things that you've done. Let our listeners know a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you. I call myself a Chi-Delphian, born and raised in Chicago, and adopted Philly as my home 24 years ago. I'm a proud father of 2. I'm in my 5th and last term in the Pennsylvania legislature, which is the largest full-time legislature in the country. And I represent 4 neighborhoods and 70,000 people in Northwest Philly. It is a majority Black, mixed income district, and it is the bluest legislative district out of all 203 across our fair Commonwealth. And I have just secured the Democratic nomination for Congress in the bluest congressional district in the entire nation. So we have more raccoons than Republicans where I live. And that is an actual fact. And we have a very diverse district. It is majority Black. It is young. There are pockets of deep poverty, vibrant neighborhoods, and the first open seat in 35 years. So that means that when I won on May 19th, Malcolm X's birthday, there was no incumbent to beat. It was a level playing field where I won by 15 points against 3 other opponents, one of whom was the former chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party. So I ran as an anti-establishment, unapologetic progressive, and I'm continuing that work by helping other progressive candidates around the country so that I can have as large an incoming class of troublemakers as humanly possible to take back the House, and not just take back the House for Democrats, but make sure that there's a critical mass of progressive-minded public servants and fewer politicians.
It's the fight right now that we have, obviously the fight to win back the House of Representatives and potentially the Senate on a national level is our big political conversation right now. And rather than but, we are having this internal push, pull, tug of war, if you will, and it's meaningful and it's important because it's the culture of the Democratic Party in terms of what type of party are we going to be, and is it going to lean more progressive? Is it going to be more moderate? Is it going to be even further where we are going to land? And it's really showing itself, ironically, in a good way, in the state legislative races, because what I'm seeing in different states across the country, Representative, is that the state legislatures are really pushing the conversation toward a more progressive state-run houses. Are you seeing that in your experience? Not the federal. We'll get to that in a second. But are you seeing that in terms of the state legislative races that you've watched throughout the country?
Yeah, well, you have a smaller scale when you're on the state level. So, like I said, I represent parts of 4 neighborhoods and 70,000 people. So you can have races that don't require as much money, which means that the less money is involved, the more authentic the candidate can be. Because let's be honest, the corrosive influence of money in politics is at an all-time highs. Certainly since the Citizens United ruling, how that impacts states is different than how it impacts federal races or statewide races. So I think there's some truth to that. And, when you have, in Illinois, you have a blue trifecta. We don't have that in Pennsylvania. We have a Democratic-run House and Republican-controlled Senate and a Democratic governor. So it's harder to govern. But in the states where you have a blue trifecta, that progressive wing may have at least incrementally more influence on the legislative agenda, certainly more and more as people are catching up with the zeitgeist. But it's not a one size fits all. I think it's different based on different states. But we do have to realize our power as Democrats on the state level, and I think we've seen that during both Trump administrations, that if we can't do what we need to do on the federal level, we need to make sure we are strategic on the state and local level. We have preemption in Pennsylvania, which means that cities can't do anything unless the state says so. So we have a $7.25 minimum wage, and Philadelphia can't increase it. The state will not allow it to do so. If we have enough votes, we can change and get rid of preemption so that municipalities like Pittsburgh and Philly and others can have a higher minimum wage than the state minimum wage. So it really depends on the constitutions and the kind of composition of these legislatures.
Is that something, in terms of the wage item, is that something that obviously I'm sure I would gotta believe that citizens and voters want to see increased, but is that something that's blocked by the Senate that's run by Republicans? Because typically
Yes.
Democrats want to see higher wages, broadly speaking, and specifically in state levels. But that's one of those moments where the not having the trifecta is a disadvantage. Is that what's going on there?
Yes. Pick any issue, and that is the issue. It's the Senate Republicans who do not want. In fact, most Republicans in office don't even want a minimum wage at all. They want the market to determine it because they want to do the bidding of greedy corporations. But yes, that is the issue. And also Pennsylvania, there are no campaign contribution limits. So someone could write me $1 million check for being a little old state rep. That's absurd. A lobbyist could buy me a summer house. In some states, I don't know what it is in Illinois, you can barely buy a legislator a cup of coffee, like anything over, yeah. And for good reason, right?
Yep.
Because lobbyists would have extraordinary influence, as they do in Pennsylvania. And that has a negative influence on all incumbents, irrespective of political ideology. And that's another reason we don't get what we need. And the donor base is the entity that is listened to over the electoral base, which is very upset at how little we're getting done when we can do so much more, particularly when we take back the the Senate in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question because you're right. That's absolutely insane that somebody could buy somebody whatever to to fit the narrative that they want them to fit. That's something that I got to believe that Pennsylvanians know. I'm making an assumption here that Pennsylvanians know and have got to want that to be changed. So to change that, what is it going to take? Is it going to be just taking back the Senate, or is it going to be are there some other machinations that need to take place?
I mean, I'm not sure why you would assume that people would know that in an era where 5 tech bros control most of what we consume.
Yeah,
right.
That's why I said that carefully.
Yeah. No, I mean, no. The average person, even the average super voter, which is how we define kind of regular voters, they don't know, and that's not on them. That's no shade on them.
Yeah.
People are busy, distracted, desperate, struggling to make ends meet. And where are they going to listen to this? I mean, I just, was reading that basically Netanyahu's best friend, Larry Ellison, is going to control Paramount, CNN, TikTok, all one family controlling a vast array of media. And that's problematic.
Yep.
So where we get our information, how these stories are told about what's possible and what's good and what's bad is dictated by people whose sole interest is profit maximization. And that's something that I'll be working on in Congress, because this media consolidation was really initiated under Bill Clinton. So, we can talk about the Orange Menace all we want, and we absolutely should, but there's bipartisan complicity in the misery we all are facing today, and it's largely because they bend the knee to greedy corporations and essentially the Epstein class, which, of course, is also bipartisan.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. We're talking with congressional Democratic nominee Chris Rabb, who is running for Pennsylvania's 3rd congressional district. I'm Richard Chu. You're listening to Chu's Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. We'll be right back.
No fake news here. It's Chu's Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. If you are just tuning in, this is Chu's Views. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with Chris Rabb, who is currently state representative in Philadelphia, but became the congressional Democratic nominee for Pennsylvania's 3rd district back on May 9th. Was it May 19th or May 15th? Mid-May.
May 19th.
May 19th. So, Chris, here's a question, to the point about state rep to U.S. representative. You're going from a representation in terms of just scaling of 75,000 folk to kind of 10 times that, almost 800,000 people in terms of representation. What have been some of the, I guess, in the campaign, what have been some of the things that you've learned about that broader group of people that may be similar to the smaller groups, numerically, and how is that going to kind of be strength for you going forward?
Sure. No, great question. So Philly is a smaller version of Chicago. It is a city of neighborhoods. It is ethnically diverse. It is rich in history. And it comes with a certain level of tribalism where, folks from Southwest don't go to Northwest. Northwest doesn't mess with South.
Wow.
So you have this, so you have these, political cliques and such. And if you come from a political clique, you take care of your own, and you play with others kind of marginally. But when you have that entrenched power that's based in a certain set of neighborhoods, you build some resistance from other parts of the city. That has not been an issue for me as much because I'm a transplant and am independent of these kind of political fiefdoms over, generations. And so I've had a greater level of fluidity in terms of my ability to navigate different parts of the district. I'm not seen, even though my base is Northwest, my base is constituents. My base is not the political class of a given area within the district. So that's allowed me some mobility that I think other more conventional candidates have not had to navigate. And then it is just a matter of scale, because ultimately members of Congress provide constituent services like on the state and local level. But we're also trying to figure out what these different parts of the district have in common, despite its extraordinary ethnic diversity, cultural diversity, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is going to be one of the things I commit myself to over the next 6 months, because there's no Republican on the ballot in November, so there's no suspense as to who will be the next member of Congress for this district, but how will that next member of Congress serve? And I emphasize that verb, right? Because there is a major difference between public servants and politicians. Politicians serve themselves and moneyed interests, and public servants serve the people and the public good. And in order for me to be the public servant I need to be in Congress, I need to listen to people closest to the pain, particularly in parts of the district where I did poorest. 2/3 of registered Democrats did not vote at all. Mm-hmm. So I won with basically 1 out of 10 constituents in the district, which seems like a ridiculously low number, and it is, but we increased voter turnout by 60% from 4 years ago. So two truths are existing simultaneously, that we had very high voter turnout compared to the norm, and a ridiculously low percentage of the electorate choosing to express its voice when it matters most. Because if you wait for the general, your candidate has already been chosen.
Yeah.
We are in a state where we have a closed primary system. That means that only registered Democrats can vote in the Democratic primary. And the unaffiliated, the primary, and anyone who's unaffiliated because they don't like Democrats, or they used to be a Democrat, or they don't want to commit to a party and because they just moved to the state and they don't know yet, none of those people have a voice. And I'm actually the co-author of a bill to open primaries across the state, which is important because two things that are relevant. One is a lot of people are tired of conventional Democrats not delivering. Also, young people are overwhelmingly registering as unaffiliated independent voters in Pennsylvania. And that is a trend that should concern Democrats. But it also should let us know that we need to be less partisan and focus on the issues that may, in fact, appeal to folks from a wide array of ideologies.
Yeah, I think the challenge with, first of all, yes, and what went through my mind is information, education, awareness, getting people plugged in. And I had the question that came to mind is, why do you think, and I know this is a complicated question and we got short time and we'll have you back to talk about things more.
Okay.
So I'll just lay that out right now. But yeah, the voter participation, the voting registration number is high based on the total population of voters in that area. But the participation number, I think, is low. And that's not just in Philly, Greater Philly, Pennsylvania. It's throughout the country. I've said since the 2024 general election that what we have to do on a state level is get more people registered to vote and more people participating, because the success on the state level is going to be the platform and the foundation for us to have success on a federal level. And I'd like to get your take on that as it relates to registration, participation, and being involved. What do you think are some of the things that we need to do to affect that in a positive way as we go forward as progressive Democrats?
Well, I mean, The gap between registered Democrats and registered Republicans in this state has winnowed significantly, where we had, I think, over 1 million more registered Democrats in the past few years. Now that voter registration among Republicans has increased significantly, and like I said before, a lot of folks are leaving the Democratic Party or starting off as independents. We have to give people a reason to register to vote and to register as Democrats. And I think we do a piss poor job of that. I think certainly in one-party towns like Philly, there's an assumption that you're going to vote Democrat because you don't have any other choice. But if 9 out of 10 elections don't have any competition, there's only one name on the ballot, or there's only one viable candidate and a handful of other non-viable folks who have no money, no infrastructure, why would the party change anything? Because the local party is about entrenched power, about concentration of power. And so if their incumbents are their people and no one runs against them, why would you register voters? Right?
Yeah.
You'd only register voters to win for a statewide or national race. But since Obama came to Pennsylvania and said, I'm not giving money to the Democratic Party of Philadelphia because it's just going to be burned, we're going to do it ourselves. They don't have the infrastructure or the will to do the right thing. They want to win these state and national, but they don't know how because they're a dinosaur. The same person has been running our party literally since 1986. He's a former congressman and a ward leader and running our party, and our voter turnout among Democrats has plummeted over the years under his leadership. And now people are saying, you need to resign. But the reality is these are structural issues. If the Democratic Party does not care about the people closest to the pain, because that's not how they are funded, and if people woke up, they may not support their endorsed candidates. Why would they invest in voter registration or anything else? And this is the problem of machines generally, not just the Philadelphia machine. Look, I grew up under Daley, machines are machines are machines. My people were in Baltimore when Nancy Pelosi's family was running the Democratic machine. These machines are inherently anti-democratic. They're about entrenched power and consolidating influence for the ideology of incumbency and very little else. And that's why I always looked up to my political hero, Harold Washington, who really sought to address these structural issues. And, that's what I'm going to do in Congress.
Yeah, that's what, and he did that too. He acknowledged that they exist. He stood up to them. He won. And one of the greatest political losses that this country has had is that Harold Washington was not able to go further politically. And that's a conversation for another day with a cigar and a glass of wine to talk about that, because you were here. But had Harold Washington been able to live longer, like so many other people like him, the country would probably be in a much better place, because you know what Harold brought to the table. So, Chris, we got to jump in a second, but as we wrap up, how can folks follow you? I'm a big proponent right now of everybody in the country has a stake in elections all over the country because we've lost too much ground. We can talk about that at another time. But how can folks follow you and be, if they choose to, a part of the message that you're putting out there?
Sure. Well, thank you, because I expect to be your bonus rep in Chicago. Whoever you have, I'm going to be that bonus, standing on business on a federal level. And you can follow me at Chris Rabb. That's RABB, short for rabble rouser. Chris Rabb on everything, TikTok, Blue Sky, X, Instagram, etc., or chrisrabb.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, Chris. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. We'll get something set up and we can bring you back on and talk in more depth. Does that sound cool?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure. Good to talk to you this morning. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Guys, we got to wrap it up. Wow. What can I tell you other than thanks to all of our guests, Chris, to Kurt, and of course to Mike for being with us this morning. And thanks to the folks here in the studio making it happen, keeping us moving forward. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And remember, y'all, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.